We've had heroes in the past like a Wolverine, a Batman, a Punisher, and they're basically unrecognizable as it feels like we're going through masculinity erasure throughout the comic book industry and have been for some time. And I think this has been very, very apparent, Doc.
I feel like it can't be anything other than purposeful at this point. It's been going on for so long, so many characters by so many creators, that it's no longer just a coincidence. That's the goal.
Obviously, some of it goes back to that Facebook. They call it a survey, but it wasn't really even anything close to that. It was just them going and grabbing people's random data and who claim that they like superheroes. So like, women like superheroes and comic books just as much as men. We need to remove all masculinity from them. If you kind of go back to the beginning of superhero comic books, the golden age into the silver age where a lot of this stuff was established, certainly DC in the golden age, more Marvel into the silver age, men were a beacon of strength, leadership, moral certainty. You had characters like Wolverine and Punisher, rugged, independent, driven by justice. And these things were very, very appealing and continue to be very, very appealing to men. And I think that's why they've lost so much of their audience at this point, because they got away from those core traits and tenets that made these heroes successful.
They've spent the years since looking at it going, what are the things that women might not like about our product that we could change to appeal to them more? What it really comes down to is they decided that apparently masculinity is the problem.
I think it's also a problem with the creators, because if you go back and you look at the Silver Age and Golden Age especially, a lot of those creators were very masculine men. They had gone off and served their country and fought in wars and done things of that nature. They were very, very masculine men. They'd done patriotic stuff. Self-sacrifice was a part of their DNA. And as we've moved through the years in public service, especially in like the military and going out there and serving your country, has become far, far less in vogue. Less people now today that have actually served in the military and gone out there and seen the world and wonderful acts of heroism and masculinity going on around there. The guys that we have now, they've never done anything for anybody. They went to college to be writers, or they've been on Tumblr and Reddit forums thinking that they understand these heroes without ever having a single drop of masculinity in their entire bodies.
That is a bit of a problem. And you've seen it in society as a whole. And I don't think that the comic creators are necessarily any different, maybe a little bit more exaggerated. They are echoing the reduction of masculinity throughout a lot of culture. And this isn't me sitting here going, I'm all super alpha. I am the
you work in the goddamn steel industry, Doc. What could be more masculine than that?
Yeah, but that doesn't. I agreed. However, I'm not gonna dispute somebody saying that I'm masculine. I'm not one to be like that. So I'm not saying this is a person that like I'm some paragon of masculinity or anything. But you watch it throughout all of society. You have a larger and larger and larger percent of the population that has never done any of the things that are traditionally masculine. They haven't fought for anything, even if it's just a fist fight on the playground as a child.
We have videos coming out constantly of women, even children, being accosted on the streets and men recording it with their phones rather than intervening. We don't want masculinity in society until it's completely fucking necessary. And I hate to break it down to people, but it's completely necessary every day to keep people in fucking line.
Well, yeah. And look, even when it is necessary, we've punished it. That Daniel Perry guy on the New York subway, he did intervene. And then what did society as a whole do? They decided they're going to put him on trial. Well, that wasn't
society on the whole. That was the state.
I understand. I understand that society, but even society itself was pretty broken down 50-50 on whether or not he needed to be punished. In yesteryear, there wouldn't have even been a question. No, he doesn't get punished. Like, let's move on. Like, is that an unfortunate?
Let's give him an award. He gets to give the city. Thank you very much for protecting the citizens at a great potential cost to yourself. He could have been killed.
45% of the population, whatever it actually is, other than the AstroTurf number that's being supported by USAID money, whatever percentage of the population is also saying, no, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. We've had feminist theory, feminist initiatives throughout all levels of society in order to say that masculinity and the traditionally male activities are somehow
Is
bad.
inherently
You have to
toxic.
change it. Yeah, it's all toxic.
And obviously, a lot of times throughout history, kids would discover comic books, at a very young age, and maybe they would grow out of it, maybe they wouldn't. Maybe we're the kind of guys that don't. But you learn about heroism, you learn about self-sacrifice, you learn about protecting people, even at your own expense and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of being washed out by modern characters. The best example is obviously what Jason Aaron did to Punisher. Punisher, a man driven by justice and vengeance, his wife, his children, murdered on the streets, goes out and tries to right those wrongs and bring people to heal that are doing those to other people to make sure it never happens again. What do we know now because of Jason Aaron? Oh, he was a serial killer as a kid. His wife didn't even like him. His kids were afraid of him. She was about to divorce him because his mission was never worth it. And it went down to remove anything that was admirable about the character of Punisher to try and destroy him on the vine because Jason Aaron just can't handle the fact that he was a very masculine character.
Both a cautionary tale and a lesson in what happens when you go too far. While it can be very, I guess, cathartic to go that far.
Yes, it is the traditional power fantasy that I see things happening on the streets and I wish I could do something about it. Now, I don't want to go out there and kill those people. I'll go read it in Punisher and watch him do it.
And Jason Aaron said, even that level of power fantasy, that's belying the fact that you were actually probably a psychopath underneath. Because I'm a good person, and no matter what happened to me, I would never do that. No, it just means you're a fucking pussy. He thinks that any character that does something like that has to be undermined.
Absolutely. It was completely intentional. They wanted to do that there to destroy the character. Makes no sense whatsoever. Over at DC Comics, a great example is Tom King's run on Batman, a character much like the Punisher, but certainly doesn't go quite as far. He's got the no-kill rule. He doesn't use guns, has a tragedy in his life as a child in Crime Alley, dedicates his entire life to protecting the people of Gotham City. Pretty cool mission out there. Has had all these love interests and stuff like that, but they always fall apart because he can't give himself to anyone else until the entire city of Gotham is cleaned up. It's a very tragic story. He is determined to help everybody that he can. Completely undermined by Tom King, made him the biggest cuckbat you've ever seen in your life. Girlfriend breaks up with him, has a fucking mental breakdown, can't get out of it, was the exact antithesis of what Batman is. And that's not even to talk about the other writers who keep claiming that Batman is the reason that there's fucking crime in Gotham to begin with, which is ridiculous. He wasn't Batman when his fucking parents were killed.
And he spent his entire life trying.
But they want to marginalize what he's trying to achieve because that's not good. It's toxic, Doc. Trying to help people at your own expense is toxic.
Because he's doing it the wrong way. He's using the only language that criminals understand, which is violence. But it's that whole worldview of these unmasculine section of the populace that thinks that just because they're violent people doesn't mean that the only language they understand is violence. You just haven't tried hard enough at all the other means of rehabilitation. They're really just poor and they're trying to feed their families. Yeah, feeding your family by releasing Joker toxin. Sure, I guess. I don't understand how Joker toxin equals bread on your table, but okay, whatever you say. What Tom King did was, if he has that desire to try to alter society, it's just because his mommy didn't love him enough. And then he spent his entire run making it all about he needs women's approval. That's what he really needs. That's what'll fix Batman. The approval of a woman that is basically a placeholder for his mommy. And I know that this is all because of Tom King's own fucking psychosis and own weird Oedipal complex, but at the same time applies it onto Batman. And there is a large percentage, I wouldn't say large percentage, a decent number of people that buy this shit. Because
they also think masculinity is inherently toxic. We've got to root it out. We got to get it out of Batman.
They're the people that said, oh, well, comic books are wonderful and great as long as they absolutely resemble nothing like comic books that everybody has ever known.
Another great example, going back to Jason Aaron, all the stuff that he's done to Wolverine. Wolverine, one of the most classically masculine characters in all of comic books. He's a loner, always does the right thing, kind of grumpy and all that kind of stuff. And now he's a complete bitch. He's just always cheering on whoever else, whatever female character wants to pretend like they're Wolverine. Like, yeah, you tell him, girl. You're the real Wolverine. He doesn't even remotely look like the character that he's always been.
He was always this grumpy guy, but he would take younger mutants under his wing and he'd give them a really, really harsh lesson in the way the world works, but he would still give them the lesson. It's like Jason Aaron and a lot of the ex-editorial office looked at it as, well, that's not just the way that Wolverine shows he cares. That's just the hardened shell around him. And inside, he's a big softie. Maybe he was in the fact that he gives a shit, but it doesn't change the way he acts. And they decided that apparently you have to get past that gruff outer shell to get to the one where he's all interested in having fucking cocoa with you, watching sappy movies. That Wolverine doesn't exist. That apparently their belief was like, you know, if you have a tough outside, it just means you are a broken, stunted, emotionally weak person inside, and you're super duper duper soft, and you're basically like a teenage girl. That's what you're really like inside. You're really soft and bubbly and happy. And we just have to get past that shell because that's society's impact on you and made you feel like you need to be guarded. No, some people are just grumpy people. When men have a problem, by nature, we want to do something about it. We don't want to talk about it. We just want to do something about it. It's kind of the same reason why men and women don't get along very well. You know, when women come to us with a problem, we try to solve it because that's what we would want. But what they want is they want to be heard about their problem. And that's perfectly fine for women. But when you come to men with a problem, don't be surprised when their instinct is to solve it. And they're trying to make the men into women because they are essentially women. They are men that have decided to live like women. I mean, that's fine for them, but don't do it to our fucking comic books in the process.
Well, yeah, they're just trying to socially engineer us all into being eunuchs or whatever. Just forget about that dick and balls thing and that hereditary natural instincts that you have. We want to remove all that stuff out of you. And obviously they're using entertainment, they're using media, they're using our school system to kind of remove all this kind of stuff. And obviously there's an enormous backlash going on right now, but they've driven off so many people. People want to see classic, heroic, masculine men out there. You have to almost go to manga to see it most of the time. There are certainly a few characters out there, but they really are taking key nodes and infrastructure or whatever by removing it a lot from a lot of these really popular male characters like a Wolverine, a Batman, certainly a Punisher. Punisher's not even around anymore. Can't be.
It comes at it from an incorrect perspective that there is fundamentally something wrong with masculinity because it differs from femininity. Well, I am a woman and it works pretty good for me. Therefore, that is the ideal. And anyone that deviates from that, when you have masculinity, that's a problem that must be engineered out. Men didn't think there was any problem with femininity. It's feminists that seem to think that there's a problem with masculinity. And I almost wonder if this goes back to that Lego play study thing where men, they become the character they're playing with, and women make the character they're playing with, the toy that they're playing with, into them. That seems to be kind of the same thing here. Inability to put yourself in the shoes of someone else.
One thing I'm certain of, Doc, this isn't a natural evolution of superheroes. This isn't a natural evolution of the way the characters are presented. I believe it's intentional. I believe it's been done on purpose. Now, they might be falling for one of the largest psyops in the history of the world inadvertently, but I don't think this is just how the characters evolved. I think it was done for a fucking purpose.
Oh, absolutely. You got to simultaneously change something and use that changed thing in order to manipulate the populace as a tool for your social engineering program. And then you also got to hire more like-minded people that have also been already socially manipulated into this worldview. You got to hire a bunch of them and bring them in and replace all the people that were a lot of the guys in the 80s and the 90s that were working in comics. They fought in Vietnam. The ones before that fought in fucking Korea. The ones before that fought in World War II. They got to replace all those people that had actually fought for something, that were then writing about fighting for something. They wrote the things they knew. And as a result, we've ended up replacing all those people by new people that write the things that they know. And the things that they know are sitting around, being little bitches, and not actually fighting for anything unless it's through subversion. It's not a fight. It's manipulation.
Very interesting conversation. We could certainly have that one all day long, as Captain America said in the MCU. But if you would like the fully unedited version of this conversation about the masculinity erasure going on in comic books, you do need to go to Think Critical Patreon on the Dok Unfiltered show. The doc is right here, link in the video description. Obviously, we do have to edit things down here for the YouTubes, and we've also got a One World Under Doom review up right now as well. Definitely go check it out.